New year, fresh start, time to recreate myself. What will I find when I walk down this path? New friends, new goals, new challenges to be met. I will meet them and I am going to succeed. New year, fresh start, it's time for self-discovery.
Episode 19, A Fox's Day.
Hey, I'm headed off. I should be back later this evening.
Samuel let out a prolonged yawn as he looked lazily at Noah.
Have fun making a bunch of tests.
You know, you could always become a teacher too. I'm sure the students could benefit from your expertise. You are older than I am.
Yeah, fuck that. With the way that these little bastards talk nowadays, I'd be bitch slapping someone before the end of the first class. The parents would come and complain, and I had to bitch slap them too. By the end of the day, I'd be forced to bitch slap Demi and that scary ass head mistress of yours. It's best for everybody if I just steer clear of that line of work.
Noah chuckled, gave Samuel a wave, and then walked out through the front door. Samuel watched the door, and his ears perked up ever so slightly. It was only when Samuel heard Noah hit the bottom stair that he leapt from the couch, over the coffee table, and into the open space of the apartment. He rolled his shoulders back, flicked his tail several times, and then let out a sigh. That motherfucker sure got them in a mess this time. Oh sure, they had some pretty messed up situations before, and Samuel had to admit that he may have been the cause of some of their sudden departures from areas. But this time was all on Noah. However, unlike all the other times that came before it, Noah wasn't planning on running. Samuel sat on his haunches, and he allowed himself to slip deeper into contemplation. He had meant what he said, that he would follow Noah until the bitter end. Well, that bitter end may be coming soon. Despite that, though, Samuel's mama didn't raise a coward or a flake. Samuel would stay true until the very end. As long as Samuel knew the feathered war criminal, Noah, or rather, Marzo, had the habit of playing Captain Save-A-Ho all the time. It wasn't bad when it was appropriate. But damn! Could he allow a fox to settle down for a few decades before upsetting the power balances of an area in order to save another poor soul? Then again, this time was different. Noah's past had finally caught up with him, pinned him to the wall, and it planned on whooping his ass if he wasn't careful. How funny. Noah was facing his past and his responsibility. Samuel's spirit shivered for a moment, and then he let out a heavy laugh. For many moments, Samuel just kept laughing, and while tears welled in his eyes, a troubling current of unease festered in him. Perhaps it was time for him to stop running, too. Samuel's body glowed with a bright and funky-ass purple light. His paws, limbs, and head started to mold into new shapes, while his fur, ears, and tail melted into his body. Samuel stood up on his back legs and then stretched his arms high above him. When the shimmering stopped, Samuel looked down at his body. His chocolate-colored skin had replaced his fur. Massive biceps and thigh muscles accentuated his badass form. He glanced in a mirror and took note of how well-groomed his handlebar mustache was, and how awesome his swirling brown eyes were. It had been a long time since he had taken this form. Samuel moved over to the bedroom and looked in his closet. While he didn't care about being naked, human society certainly did. After a few moments, Samuel stepped out of his room, wearing a pair of black slacks, some polished black loafers, a blue and white paisley buttoned-up shirt, and a fabulous dark red suit coat. Hell yeah, he looked awesome. Samuel left the apartment and locked the door behind him. He walked down the street and he allowed a latent magical sense to guide him. Ever since he moved here, he had felt the presence of other kitsune, but he never sought them out. After all, there had been more than a few occasions where he and Noah made a notorious reputation for themselves, and the last thing he wanted to do was blow his friend's cover. Too bad Noah's inconsiderate ass wasn't as compassionate as he was. Samuel was sure the others felt him too, but they never approached him either. They might not have been able to tell who he was, but they certainly knew he was there. He found himself walking through one of the more artsy sections of Laughlin. People who passed Samuel often gave him looks, either gazes of lusty attraction, respectful awe, or even haterism jealousy. Samuel didn't outwardly show his delight over their reactions, and kept a serious, all-business scowl on his face. Inwardly, he reveled though. A barely noticeable magical trail winded through the air, and one of the more concentrated saturations led to a little dive bar beside a fast food joint. The bar was a pool hall called the Hippo Neck, and had a sign with the image of a hippo leaning over a pool table with a cue in anthropomorphized hands. Hippo Neck? What a fucking weird name for a bar. Samuel moved inside. The Hippo Neck was pretty dark inside, with bright lights over the 10 pool tables and little hanging lights over the bar. There weren't a lot of patrons in the bar at the time. 4 people who played on 2 different tables, and a small group of people who sat at the far end of the Hippo Neck, where there were drinking tables set up. A single bartender stood behind the bar. He was an older man, probably about 20 years older than what Samuel looked like. The old man had smoky black skin, a pair of onyx-colored irises, and a wide and inviting smile. His hair had already gone white. The man wore a buttoned-up white shirt, a sort of bedazzled vest, and some old, worn brown slacks. He looked a little on the hefty side, perhaps from eating too much good food. The older man peered at Samuel, and his smile grew wider.
Well, I'll be damned. It's about time your ass showed up.
Samuel stayed near the door, and he glanced toward where the other patrons were playing pool. They were on tables toward the middle of the bar. Each of the other people aside from himself and the bartender were human. A smug smirk creased Samuel's face. He approached the bar.
I wasn't aware I was expected. You might have me confused for somebody else.
No, I don't. I know exactly who you are. Your mama asked me to keep an eye on you.
Samuel's delight faded from his face, and the old man laughed all the harder. The bartender grabbed a bottle from behind the bar, poured some of the contents into a pair of glasses, and then set one of them before Samuel. At first, Samuel just stared at the glass, but he decided to drink once the bartender threw it back and gulped it down in one motion. As soon as the liquid hit Samuel's tongue, he knew. A great warmth filtered down his chest, and his whole mouth felt airy and buzzing.
That's some good shit.
Yeah, I've been holding the bottle back for the day when you get off your lazy ass and finally seek me out. She told me you'd come today.
She?
Your mama. She told me you'd be coming today. And finally ready to step up and stop being a little child.
Samuel gazed into the depths of his empty cup. The bartender filled it again, and together he and Samuel took another shot.
So she knows where I am?
Boy, she never lost you. She had a dozen of us following you and your unique little friend ever since you left that day. We can't have a repeat of what happened before, you know.
A dozen? Damn. You've been following me this whole time? So where the fuck were you guys during that time in the desert? Or during the War of the Dragons?
Where do you think we were? Out of the fucking way. You two are crazier and more reckless than a bat in heat. And you better believe we told your mama all the details. By the way, the name is Morgan.
Morgan? As in my mama's grain accountant? How the hell did you get stuck with a surveillance and snitch job?
Morgan leaned over the bar and laughed out loud again.
You're all right, kid. Yeah, I used to be your mama's grain accountant. But after doing that job for over 500 years, I needed something new and exciting. When she asked for volunteers to follow you, I jumped at the chance. Like I said, your mama didn't want you to be snatched up again.
Samuel's eyes fell downcast for a moment, and he shook his head. He gripped the glass a little harder in one hand and formed a fist in the other.
I didn't mean for that to happen. I thought I was so careful, and yet I still got my ass captured. That stupid swamp-ass bitch was the worst.
Yeah, she was.
Samuel arched an eyebrow at the bartender and then waited for him to continue.
I don't know the specifics because I left right after you did. But from what I'm told, your mama went and paid that witch spirit bitch a visit.
Samuel's eyes widened.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit is right. Let's just say, she doesn't exist anymore.
Samuel grabbed the bottle, poured himself and Morgan another drink, and then set the bottle down beside him. They drank again.
So, why did the favored son of the fox goddess come and seek me out?
It sounds like you already know why I'm here.
Yeah, your mama wouldn't be your mama if she didn't already know. Now, enough dancing around. Why are you here?
Samuel looked back over his shoulder, and the people who had been playing pool must have left. No one looked his way, and so essentially it was just him and Morgan.
Something is coming. Something pretty terrible. While it might not have to do with us at the moment, it could spread.
Morgan stopped smiling, and he gave Samuel a harder look. The kindness in the older man's eyes still remained, but they became steelier at the same time.
You're referring to the legions of Vernot, yes? Your mama has foreseen things. Terrible things indeed. In all the Hubertus, the angels may unleash a devastating travesty that has never been seen before. In this world, or all worlds.
Something has to be done. The Kitsune can't stand by while others rush to fight this enemy.
And are you so sure that others will fight?
The Halosians won't back down from those winged motherfuckers.
Morgan stood up straighter and crossed his arms over his chest. His face contorted to form a frown, and that sign of displeasure seemed jarring to Samuel, even though he had only met the man recently.
I've spoken to your mama recently, which is why I'm so well informed. She told me many of the potential visions she had about what could come. In all of those visions, a great number die. In all but a few of them, they all die. What I meant was, are you so certain that others not tied to the ancient grievances of the Bright War will fight?
If they don't, then those angel motherfuckers will come for us next.
Yes, they will. That much has been seen in all of your mama's visions.
Morgan leaned in closer to Samuel.
My boy, the hour is much later than you think. You won't be able to unite all of the peoples of this world to fight in time to meet what is an inevitability. In fact, you won't be able to get the entirety of the Kitsune race to stand behind you either. There simply isn't time.
Samuel stared into the wood of the bar, and a bitter rage flushed within him. It wasn't directed at Morgan, but at that indisputable truth of his words. Noah knew the time was almost upon them, and so did Samuel. He could almost taste the bile of a grim fate in the back of his throat.
Your friend is going to do something reckless, but if he succeeds, he can save everywhere from this fate. However, should he fail, then everyone dies.
He won't. because I'm gonna be there with him.
Your mama saw that too. In 80% of her visions, you die. And you only live when your friend fails.
When the words finally sank in, Samuel averted his eyes for a moment. A great deal of festering unease danced in his stomach, and his bones almost seemed to hum with fear. So this was really going to be it? His mama's power of insight was quite powerful, although she wasn't 100% absolute all the time. That was evident by the multiple potential futures. Samuel chuckled for a moment, and then locked gazes with the older Kitsune.
Fuck that shit. I don't give a fuck what fate has in store. I make my own motherfucking destiny. Here's what's gonna happen. Not only are we gonna beat those dumbass angels, but I'm gonna live and rub my nuts in Destiny's face.
At first, Morgan just looked at Samuel with a set of wide eyes and a mouth ajar. Then the old man laughed. Hard. It was such an infectious laugh that Samuel also started chuckling a little too. After many moments, Morgan regained his composure.
Boy, you are funny as hellos. Well, I have 3 pieces of good news for you. Firstly, should you fail and the angels do destroy hellos and expand here, your mama has vowed to fight them with all of her might.
Well, at least the world isn't totally defenseless then. My mom is no joke.
Your mama is one bad...
Hey, watch your mouth.
I'm talking about the fox guys.
I can dig it. Now, what's the second piece of good advice?
I told you before, your mama sent 12 of us to keep an eye on you. If you're serious about going up against Vernot, then you'll have 12 more foxes to back you up.
Samuel grinned from ear to ear.
Does that include you too, you geezer? Your old ass gonna slow us down.
Don't get it twisted, young blood. I was doing grown folk shit long before you were even a kid. I still got a little juice in the old tank for one more battle. Besides, are you really gonna be a chooser?
Well, if you think you still got it, then I'll be honored to fight alongside you, you old ass motherfucker. What's this third piece of good advice?
Morgan grinned widely and then bent down behind the bar. He pulled out a long wooden box and placed it on the flat of the bar.
Ha! Your mama said you're not grounded anymore.
He gave the top of the box an affectionate pat. At first, Samuel kept switching his attention from the old man to the box. What the hellos was he And then it hit him. Samuel's eyes opened wide and he gazed at the box all the harder.
That's right.
Morgan opened the box and revealed what lay inside. At first, Samuel just looked at it, but then he reached inside and gripped its hilt. Samuel pulled out the sheathed short sword, resting in its shined, smoky black scabbard. Little etchings of butterflies covered the scabbard. The sword guard of the short sword was carved into the shape of a fox chasing its own tail. Black leather wrapped around its hilt, and the pommel of the sword had a polished silver fox face. Slowly, Samuel drew the sword, his sword, from the scabbard. The sweet sound of the metal sliding out sent shivers down Samuel's skin. As soon as he pulled the blade free, the latent magic of the weapon came to life. The blade transformed into a blade of pulsating light, switching between all of the colors of creation. When he waved the blade through the air, it left luminescent trails through the air.
Zaberdine, how you been, baby? Daddy's missed you. Has anyone else used her?
Nope. Your mama wouldn't allow it.
Samuel resheathed Zaberdine and then looked at Morgan.
So, I can really count on you to all help me.
We will follow you until the very end, my prince. Whatever end that is.
Samuel sighed, and he placed a hand on Zaberdine's hilt. By drawing the blade and intending on taking it into battle, Samuel was reconnecting himself to obligations he had once discarded selfishly. It was kind of funny. But not only did him abdicating his throne get his beloved weapon taken away from him, but it got him grounded.
I suppose if I survive this, I'm gonna have to actually become king, huh?
Win, my prince. Win.
Samuel gave Morgan one last wave, and then left the hippo neck.